Thank you so much, Justin. Show of appreciation for you and Tasha and Bruce and all of your colleagues at Financial Brokerage. I know you do a great job for your agent and advisor clients, so congratulations on another successful eSummit online conference. I know last year was your first year, and this is your second year at it, so well done. I know you've had good turnout, and I'm sure everybody's getting a lot of great ideas from all the many great speakers that you have relationships with to deliver their value through these webinars. I'm going to cover a few key points about getting and keeping clients in any economic environment. And as Justin mentioned in the opening, there'll be lots of opportunity for you to ask questions. So this webinar can be as interactive as you choose for it to be. As Justin mentioned, you can type your questions by going to the bottom of the GoToWebinar dashboard. It's very simple. Just type your question in, and there'll be a few opportunities. We'll ask Justin to tell me what the questions are. And I'll do my best to not only cover the content today, but to personalize it for you and your particular situation so you get lots of value from this investment of your valuable time. What's on the screen right now is a very important resource for you. In the lower right-hand corner, you can see a web address that you'll want to write down. And this is a place where you can go to get more value beyond just what this webinar does for you today. So I've been fortunate enough to have Financial Brokerage bring me on for 2 previous webinars. One webinar about time, priority, and calendar management. That was in August. And in June, we did a webinar on growing your business by referral only. So those webinars were recorded, and you have access to those webinars by going through this particular page sponsored by Financial Brokerage. There are some other good resources for you there as well. So I'm leaving this on the screen long enough for you to make sure that you can write that web address down so that you can access these other great resources. Another tool that we'd like to bring to you to help you have an even more successful business and life is a success roadmap. Your success roadmap is a great tool. It helps you get clarity about your values, define your goals, and benchmark your business success metrics and your life success metrics, thus creating a foundation for an effective business plan and being a source of daily inspiration. So all of us who've been in business for a few years know that there are some days that are better than others. So what do you do on those days when you just don't feel like it to do the work that you know you need to do in order to achieve your goals? Well, you can find the inspiration in your success roadmap. We'd be happy to create one for you. There's no cost or obligation. We'll send you the success roadmap both digitally in a PDF format. I'll also send you an 11 by 17 version of it that's literally suitable for framing so that you can put it somewhere that keeps you inspired and motivated to implement all of the great ideas that you've been getting from the various speakers from the Financial Brokerage eSummit. Before I get too deep into the content, one of the better ideas I'll share with you is on the screen right now, and that's recognizing that there is no silver bullet. Successful people that accept that there is no silver bullet. Mastery is a journey. So the reason that I share this with you early in our time together is I want to make the point that this webinar is about helping your long-term career success. We're not here to teach you sales gimmicks or short-term quick fix, get-rich-quick marketing tactics. We're here to teach you proven fundamentals and principles that you can apply to be successful both in the near term, the medium term, and in the long term. That's a very important thing to grasp, and that is that there is no silver bullet, particularly if you want to be a top advisor. So if you just want to make a few sales and close a few deals, you can use sales tactics and marketing gimmicks. But if you really want to be a top advisor, it requires a much more serious focus. And when I talk about top advisor, I'm talking about being in the top percentage of value delivered to the client. So remember, our subject today is how to get and keep clients in any economy. So if you want to get and keep clients in any economy, you've got to make sure to deliver a lot of value for them. And of course, another metric of being a top advisor is your own financial success. It doesn't make sense to be a financial advisor and not have money. So our whole business is about money. And as long as we're helping other people take care of their money, it makes sense that we're making plenty of money and taking care of it ourselves as well. So notice these two things. Being a top advisor is about value delivered to clients, and your own financial success. So I know a lot of top producers, so-called top producers, who make a lot of money, but you can't really say that they deliver much value to their clients. So I believe that being a top advisor is a combination of all three of the things that are on your screen right now: value delivered to clients, financial success, and quality of life. The legendary John Savage used to say, you can't be a failure at home and consider yourself a success in business. So those three things are sort of the trifecta of what it means to be a top advisor. And these three things are available to everyone who's in the financial services business. So wherever you are currently, my hope for you is that you get some content and inspiration today to help you take it to the highest levels of the financial services industry, not just your next level, but the highest levels of being a financial advisor. Now, in order to prepare for this webinar, I made a few assumptions. And I'm going to share with you what my assumptions are. And my assumptions may or may not be correct. Frankly, I hope that they are. And I hope that rather than you asking me to lower my assumptions and expectations of you, that you will instead raise your own expectations for yourself to meet my assumptions. So my first assumption is that you'd rather work with people who have money. Right? Maybe you'd rather work with people who have a lot of money. Maybe you'd really like to be doing business with rich people. And so I meet a lot of people out there who are in the financial services industry, and they're struggling largely because they're working with people who just don't have very much money. And I would suggest that you would rather work with people who have money. Now, maybe you're not sure how to work with people who have money. Maybe you don't know how to approach people who have money. We're going to fix that today, but I'm operating from the assumption that you would rather work with people who have money. My other assumption is that you'd prefer to have all of their business rather than just a transaction or two or three. So I appreciate that financial brokerage is a resource for fixed annuities, life insurance, long-term care, and disability insurance, but I'm also hoping that that's just one part of your business, that for that part of your business, you rely on a great firm like financial brokerage to help you out, but that you really would prefer to have all of their business rather than just a transaction or two or three. This is crucial because if you want to get clients and keep clients in any economy, if you're just sort of a one-trick pony who specializes in a particular product or particular transaction, you're making your life much more difficult than it has to be. My other assumption is you'd like to be paid recurring revenue. Now, I don't have an issue with commissions. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with earning a commission. I don't think there's an honesty or an integrity issue with earning a commission. What I do believe is that if your business is 100% commission, that you're making your life much more difficult than it has to be. One of the great things about the financial services business is that there are a variety of ways that you can be paid recurring revenue. So you're not starting over every January 1st. You're actually building a business that has more value for you and more intrinsic value in the marketplace. Another assumption that I'm making is that you'd like to have your clients for a very long time, probably as long as you are in the business. And perhaps you do business with some people you wish you hadn't taken on as clients. So you may choose to disengage from some clients, but you'd really want that to be your choice, not their choice. Another assumption I make is that you'd like for your clients to refer you to all of their successful friends, family, and colleagues. While I appreciate that there are multiple ways to get clients, I hope that everyone on this webinar today recognizes that the most cost-effective and the most time-efficient way to get clients is by referral. It's better for your clients, and it's better for you. And my assumption is that whether you're getting referrals currently or not, you'd really prefer for all of your business to come from referrals, and you really would like for your clients to refer you to all their successful friends, family, and colleagues. My next assumption is that you'd like for people who are currently working with other advisors to transfer all of their business to you. My other assumption is that you want to be paid well for working with these people regardless of what happens in the markets, the economy, or the world. In other words, you don't want your fortunes, your income, to be dictated by external events that you have no control over. And my last assumption is that when you someday sell your business, you'd like for your clients to stick with the new advisor to whom you sell your business. So the bottom line is that only three things happen to a business. Either it dies, you die, or you sell it. That according to the famous business consultant and guru Michael Gerber, and I agree with his assessment. Only three things are going to happen to your business ultimately. Either you're going to die, your business is going to die, or you're going to sell it. So I hope that you're building a business that has value, because your business should be one of the most valuable assets in your own personal financial portfolio. When you do someday sell your business, it will be worth more because you have recurring revenue. In fact, a recurring revenue business is worth at least twice as much as a commission business. So when you build a recurring revenue business, you are automatically at least doubling the equity value of your asset. And the reason this other last bullet point is so important is because when you sell your business, the price is going to be predicated on how many of the clients stick with the new advisor who purchases your business. So your earnout, so to speak, or how you're paid out over time, is going to be determined by the client staying with the new advisor. So that's why I have that assumption in there as well. So as you look at this list of assumptions, maybe you're not yet the advisor who operates at this level, but my hope is that you either already aspire to be, or by the time we're done today, you will aspire to be an advisor who operates from a reality, and these aren't assumptions, but rather the reality that you are living with. So the question, of course, is how? How do you become the advisor who can get clients and keep clients in any economy where volatile financial markets and broken or corrupt governments or negative world events, whether they're weather-related or just wacky dictator-related, regardless of whether the economy is great or strong, or weak or strong, rather, how do you really get and keep clients in any economy? And the answer lies in this quote from Bruce Springsteen. A few months ago, I was traveling to give a speaking engagement to one of your companies, and I got in late, and I crawled into bed after getting unpacked and doing my evening hygiene routine. And I don't have HBO at home, so I surfed into HBO, and there was this great special about Bruce Springsteen. And it was really showing how Bruce and the E Street Band, they had all this great footage from when they were just getting started. And it just showed this sort of maniacal commitment to greatness that Bruce Springsteen exhibited. I mean, if they had to rehearse again, they rehearsed again. If the lyrics weren't just right, then he fixed the lyrics. The other people in his band said, you can't believe how many great songs that Bruce wrote that the world will never hear because they just didn't meet his standards. And he said, more than rich, more than famous, more than even being happy, I wanted to be great. You know, another great human being died, I think it was last week, maybe it's the week before already, but Steve Jobs. And when you read all the things about Steve Jobs in the newspaper and the magazines that recount his life, he was maniacal, a lot like Bruce Springsteen, about being great. Being great at their craft really, really, really mattered to them. So that's probably the most important thing that I'm going to share with you today. I'm going to get into the specifics, of course, but the bottom line is if you want to get and keep clients in any economic environment, you've got to be really, really good. And you're only going to be really, really good if you make a commitment to be really, really good. So I'm going to give you some categories where you have to be really, really good. But first I want to share with you some really, really good news. And that really, really good news, if I can speak this candidly with you, is that most financial advisors suck. They are not really advisors at all, but rather they're product-oriented salespeople who understand one or two products and go to the market to sell those products. You've got insurance agents, annuity salespeople, asset gatherers. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with being any of these things. It's just that the marketplace doesn't like you very much. They want something more. They don't just want a product specialist. They really want somebody to help them get their entire financial house in order, someone who they can trust, who can help simplify their life. And we're going to talk much more about that. So again, there's nothing inherently wrong with being sort of a one-trick pony product person, other than the fact that you're making your life in the marketplace much more difficult. Abraham Maslow said, when your only tool is a hammer, the whole world looks like a nail. And the marketplace is tired of financial product salespeople hammering them about their fear that is best suited to sell that product. There are advisors out there who sell a boatload of a particular product or who gather a lot of assets, and taking their clients is like taking candy from a baby because they're one-trick ponies who don't add much value beyond the transaction. So I don't know who to attribute this quote to. It's not my original, but I like it a lot. They say it's only crowded at the bottom. It's only crowded at the bottom, and it's only crowded in the middle. It's not crowded at the top. So when you decide to be a really, really good, a great advisor, you put yourself in a very small group of people where the competition is very, very light. The competition is heavy in the middle. The competition is heavy in the bottom. The competition is not heavy at the top. So be really, really good at what? First of all, be really good at what you actually do for your clients. Have a better value proposition and deliver on that value proposition, and we'll be talking extensively about that. Be really good at your communication skills. This is one of the challenges with most financial advisors. They just aren't very good communicators. They don't ask good questions. They don't listen very well. And when it is their turn to talk, they don't communicate in a way that's articulate, in a way that's compelling, in a way that's inspiring. So be really good at your communication skills. You should have an initial client interview script that's bulletproof. Your regular client meetings, which should be something your clients look forward to. Filling your appointment calendar, very, very important. Your communication skills are vitally important to your ability to get hired, to get appointments on your calendar so you have the opportunity to get hired. So while I'm a huge advocate of building your business by referral only, however you choose to build your business, whether it's a radio show or seminars or direct mail followed up by phone calls, whatever you do to build your business, at some point you're going to talk to people on the phone and you're going to see those people face to face. Your communication skills will be the determining factor to your success. So imagine having great communication skills and a great value proposition. The next bullet point is be really, really good at your leadership skills. Now this is important because you have relationships that you have to manage. So while financial brokerage provides a lot of resources for you and a tremendous level of support, you have your leadership and your communication skills determine how effectively you interact with the people at financial brokerage. So you want to be one of those people who they love to support. And let's face it, we all have clients we love, and we all have clients who pay us good money who maybe if we knew then what we know now, we wouldn't have taken them on as clients. So what about your leadership skills? Your leadership skills in interacting with your resources like financial brokerage, your leadership skills in hiring your administrative support team, your leadership skills in working with other subject matter experts to provide value for your clients. Really good at your leadership skills. And the fourth bullet is really good at organizing your time around your high payoff activities. Now, I'm not going to go into this at all because, as I mentioned, recently we did a webinar that's been archived with financial brokerage specifically about time, priority, and calendar management. But I want you to look at those 4 bullet points and ask yourself this question. What would happen to your success in business and your personal quality of life if you were really good at what you actually do for your clients? If you're really good at your communication skills, if you're really good at your leadership skills, and really good at organizing your time around your high payoff activities. So we all have gaps in each of these areas. We all have opportunity for improvement. So my advice to you is that you make a commitment today to take that to the next level and ultimately to the highest level, because this is a great business. 3 bullet points on the screen should be a reminder and inspiration to you that this is a great business because you can create your ideal life income. You can pay for your present lifestyle, get your own financial house in order, and fund your future goals. You can have time freedom. You do not have to be a workaholic to be a successful financial advisor. And of course, it's a great business because it's a business of helping people. The more effectively you help people, the more time freedom and money you make. This is a great business. So that being the case, what's on the screen right now is the sad truth. Why do most financial advisors fail? Well, they have a lack of a clear and compelling vision for their business and their life. They have no concrete plan of action to acquire and serve ideal clients. They have a weak team. They have inconsistent execution, and that results in a business with too many clients generating too little money, consuming too many hours. So it doesn't have to be that way. Inherently, this is a great business. So I talked about having a great value proposition in what you do, and the quote on your screen right now sums up how you can have the best possible value proposition being a financial advisor in today's economic reality. This quote says, "No one can whistle a symphony. It takes an orchestra to play it." So in order to deliver on a great value proposition, you can't be a one-person band. You can't be someone who says, well, I write the financial plan, I'm the expert in the insurance, I do the asset allocation. You can't do all that. It isn't because you're not smart enough to do it. It's because there isn't enough time to do it. There are only 168 hours in the week, and each category in the financial services industry. I mean, again, I'm going to make a plug for financial brokerage. That's why you have a relationship with someone like financial brokerage, because you can't be an expert in annuities, life insurance, long-term care, and disability. You can't be an expert in every area where clients need your help and advice. You have to rely on your team. That's why the one-man band is an example of what to move away from. What you want to move toward is being more like an orchestra conductor. So you are the person who has the relationships with the subject matter experts, and it's your job to manage those relationships in such a way that your clients get the benefit of all of their expertise. And of course, I'm not just going to talk about this conceptually. We'll get deeper into the details of how that works and how you can make that happen as we continue with this discussion about being great at what you do for your clients, having a better value proposition. So I'll use the values-based financial planning value proposition as an example. So the values-based financial planning value proposition has 3 elements to it. I want you to imagine, as I introduce these 3 elements, how easy it would be to engage anybody, rich, poor, middle America, and of course I'm encouraging you to work with people who are wealthier and have more money. Your life will be better if you do that. So you can engage these people easier when you have a compelling value proposition. So point number 1 of the values-based financial planning value proposition is align your financial choices with your most important goals and your most deeply held values. So while most financial advisors are just selling products to meet needs, this value proposition delivers at a much higher level. And that's just one of 3 benefits of the value proposition. The second is get your entire financial house in perfect order and keep it that way forever. And the third is have a 10 level of confidence that no matter what happens in the market, the economy, or the world, you will achieve your goals. So let's take each of those points one at a time. Let's say that you meet somebody who's very financially successful, even though they already have a financial advisor. It's very unlikely that they have a financial advisor who's made sure that all their financial choices are in alignment with their most important goals and their most deeply held values. So most financial advisors don't even know how to engage a client or a prospective client in a values conversation. So you can't help someone align their financial choices with their most deeply held values unless you know what those values are. You can't know what those values are unless you know how to have conversations with people to have them talk about their values. So right off the bat, as we talked about earlier, your goal is to meet people who have money and create such a strong relationship with them that they move all their business from where they're currently doing it to doing all their business with you. Now, I'm not talking about turning their accounts or replacing perfectly good products with your products. I'm talking about the relationship shifts and all current business and future business is then done with you. So bullet point number 1, get your entire financial house in perfect order and keep it that way forever. So let's just assume for a moment that some people have their financial house in order and some people don't. What percentage of the population in the United States of America do you think can honestly say they have their entire financial house in perfect order and keep it that way forever? I've never met anybody. I know some pretty wealthy people, and what I do, I'm no longer a financial advisor. I used to be, but just in the spirit of all the advisors that we coach and train to be more successful, I like to ask questions to test things out. So, for example, I fly rather frequently. I typically, with my status and having flown 6 or 7 million miles in my lifetime, I usually get upgraded. So one of the things I like to do, if the person next to me is talkative, they'll often ask, so the common flight question is, are you going home or are you going out? All right, so you just answer that question, and you ask them, what about you, going home or going out? And that's usually the conversation starter. So if they're going out, so business or pleasure? Usually it's business. So what are you doing? What do you do? If they're coming back, you can ask the same question. So were you on business or were you on pleasure? And usually it's business, so what were you doing? They tell you what they were doing. That strikes a conversation about what do you do. Then they're invariably going to ask, well, what do you do? So my response is, well, we teach financial advisors to help their clients get their entire financial house in perfect order and keep it that way forever. I'm just curious, on a scale of 1 to 10, 0 being your financial house is a complete mess, and 10 being your financial house is in perfect order, what number best represents your financial house? Nobody has ever said higher than a 7. So I'm letting that sink in. Nobody has ever said higher than a 7. And usually that's met with inquisitive looks like, gee, probably about a 7. Is it possible to have it as a 10? Now, I usually don't answer that question right away. What I like to ask next is, well, I'm just curious, do you have a financial advisor? And invariably they say, yes, several of them. They have relationships with multiple advisors and agents, relationships with multiple institutions, to which I then usually respond with something like, isn't it interesting that you have multiple financial advisors and multiple financial institutions in your life, and yet you still feel like you're at a 7 of having your entire financial house in perfect order and keeping it that way forever? What do you think about that? All right, to which I usually respond with some verbalization of, boy, I'd love to have my entire financial house in perfect order. Where do I find somebody who can help me do that? So if you just ask those people, do you have a financial advisor? Are you happy with your financial advisor? They'd likely say, yes, I have a financial advisor, several of them, and yes, I'm happy. So the reality is this is a different benchmark. The benchmark is getting your entire financial house in perfect order and keeping it that way forever. So how do you get and keep clients in any economy? Well, how do you get them? We'll talk more about this in detail, but basically you put yourself in a place where there are people who are likely to meet your ideal client profile. So if you wanted to meet wealthy people, you know your community, where do wealthy people go and hang out? And I just gave you a demonstration of how to strike up a conversation with them, and I'll go into more details about this later, but this is a good opportunity for me to remind you that today's webinar is being recorded. Many of the things that we'll do are script and conversation intensive. If you like some of the things that I'm saying and you want to write them down and script them out for yourself, then the way that you do that is you go to that website that I put up earlier. I'll put it up again in a few minutes. And within a couple of days, you'll be able to download the recording of today's webinar, both the slides and the audio, so that you can get these the scripting ideas that we'll cover, and we may cover some in the questions that you ask as well. So that might be one of the kinds of questions you ask. If there's a situation that you'd like me to demonstrate a script or a process to engage people in that situation, just tell me what it is, and I'll give you some feedback on what I would say. That's sort of what I'm known for. We're famous for creating scripts and processes to engage people so that they want to meet with you, and then when they do meet with you, so that you have a higher probability of getting hired if you want to be hired. And that's an important clarification. You really don't want to be hired by everyone. And when you get really good at engaging people so they want to set appointments with you, and knowing and having a lot of confidence that plenty of people will hire you, you can have confidence that you can be more selective. So let's talk about the third bullet point. Have a 10 level of confidence that no matter what happens in the markets, the economy, or the world, you'll achieve their goals. So as part of the values-based financial planning value proposition, I could just use that single bullet point as a way of engaging people. So let's take it to a different situation. Let's say that we're at some type of a charity or a fundraising event, and you're meeting people there. Now, before I finish my example, let me just make this point. So when I was a financial advisor, I was fortunate to get recruited into this business in my early 20s. And when I got recruited into this business, I was poor. In fact, broke was my goal. I had a negative net worth, and my goal was to get back to 0 so someday I could have a positive net worth. It's not lost on me the irony that I was recruited, that the financial services industry recruits broke poor people into it, like I really knew anything about money. So the other problem that I had is not just that I was poor and broke, or broke was my goal. I don't come from a wealthy family. So when I talk about going to charity events, I grew up on Air Force bases. My father is a great guy, but he wasn't, frankly, particularly financially ambitious. We lived on Air Force bases. For most of his career, he was an enlisted man. He wasn't a pilot. He didn't want to have kind of the glamorous job of being a pilot. And then when he retired, he went to fly for American Airlines. He was an Air Force photographer and an administrator. And he spent most of his career as an enlisted man, and then later in his career had the opportunity, after he finished his college education on the GI Bill, to become an officer. So that's how I grew up. I didn't grow up in country clubs. I didn't grow up in wealthy neighborhoods. I didn't grow up around people who had money. So the ideas sharing with you are the same things that I created for myself, so I, as a poor young guy in his 20s, could learn how to have conversations with rich people so that I could get them as clients. As it turned out, other people wanted to know how this works, and that's how I ended up teaching values-based financial planning instead of just using values-based financial planning for my own purposes. So I give you that background because I think it's important to understand when I talk about showing up at a charity event, anybody can show up at these events. It's your job to figure out, where do the successful people congregate in your community? And then you've got to put yourself in those places and be able to have conversations with those people. It's a much smarter approach than direct mail or seminars or radio shows. I'm not saying those things don't work. I'm saying you want to be good enough that you can have a conversation face-to-face with anybody, anytime, anywhere. So continuing with my example, let's say that you are at this charity event. You have some type of an opening question. And it's typically, so how long have you been involved in this charity? Why are you passionate about this particular cause? My experience is when people are at a particular charity event, if it benefits animals, they probably love animals. If it benefits cancer, they've probably either been personally touched by cancer as a cancer survivor, or they know somebody who has. If it benefits, in San Diego, we have a charity that started here. It's worldwide now, but it's called the Challenged Athletes Foundation. So if you're an athlete, typically a cyclist or a runner or a triathlete, you see a lot of people with disabilities participating in those events. It's very inspiring. They have all kinds of fundraisers. And I'm not talking about $10,000 a plate fundraisers. I'm talking about things that for small amounts of money or just personal involvement, you can show up at these events. So when you ask the question, so how did you get involved in this particular charity? They're going to answer the question. You might ask another question like, so what do you do for a living? When they ask you, when you ask them what they do for a living, they're often likely to ask you the same question back. I'm going to suggest you don't say, I sell life insurance. I'm going to suggest you don't even say, I'm a financial advisor. I'm going to suggest that you say, we help people get their entire financial house in perfect order and keep it that way forever, so they have a 10 level of confidence that no matter what happens in the markets, the economy of the world, you will achieve your goals. And then you ask a question. And the question is, say, hey, I'm just curious. The markets are volatile. The economy is weak. The world seems to be in chaos. What number would you put on your confidence about the future that even if all these external things occur, you're still going to achieve your goals? And again, I've never heard anybody say 10. And so I'm not trying to scare them. I'm trying to get an understanding of how they feel about confidence for the future. And then it's fun to ask a question like, so what do you think about having a 10 level of confidence that no matter what happens externally, you can still achieve your financial goals? And now you're engaging in a conversation. So the value proposition is crucial, but let's make sure that you can deliver on that, because my guess is you're listening to me and looking at what's on the screen, and you might be thinking, well, gee, how do I deliver on that? And so the how, we'll get into the details of the how. I'll give you a couple other examples of the weak value proposition compared to a strong value proposition. What's on the screen right now is the pretty typical financial advisor value proposition. For a percentage of your assets and commissions on some products, I'll write your financial plan, handle your investments, address some insurance issues, and do some tax and estate planning with you. Now, it's not bad. Right, so don't misunderstand me. When I talk about having a very high-level value proposition, it's not that most value propositions are bad. It's just that they're weak and not particularly effective compared to better value propositions. So for example, compare what was on the screen a moment ago to what's on the screen now. So for some amount of money, or a percentage of your net worth, you get comprehensive financial services. That means that I will hold a team of best-in-class experts accountable to make sure you get the best advice to get your entire financial house in perfect order and keep it that way forever. Right? I promise you that if somebody asks you what you do and your response is, I have a team of best-in-class subject matter experts to make sure you get the best advice to get your entire financial house in perfect order and keep it that way forever, the vast majority of people you say that to are going to go, really? Tell me more about that. How does that work? What do you charge for that? So they're going to lean in and start asking you questions. So whenever you tell somebody what you do, it should encompass at least part of your value proposition and be articulated in a way that causes people to say, wow, that's interesting. I haven't heard that before. I want to talk to you some more about this. Now, they may or may not set an appointment. They may or may not become clients, but you've just gotten past the first hurdle, so to speak, in how you get and keep clients in any economy. Now, what's on your screen right now is a good visual about the full service value proposition. So we've got to speak to the issue of how, because you can't, as I mentioned earlier, be a one-person band and expect to deliver on this value proposition. You have to have relationships with what I call best-in-class subject matter experts. Best-in-class subject matter experts. So the beauty of this value proposition, if you're newer to the business and you're on this webinar today, you can assemble a team that has literally hundreds of years of wisdom and experience. So you might have only been in the business for 3 months or 6 months or a year or two, but your team has hundreds of years of wisdom and experience, and that's what you're bringing as the value and benefit to your existing clients. So you can see in the ovals, the colored ovals, you have resources. You're the trusted advisor in the center. You have relationships with ideal clients. It's your job not to know what these people know, but to be able to make sure that your clients get the benefit of their expertise. So in tax, I'm not suggesting that you become an accountant or a CPA. You have to have a relationship with a best-in-class subject matter expert in that area. Financial planning, if you're currently writing the plans, I'm suggesting you outsource those to the best CFP plan writer that you can find either in your community, and they also have people who do this because it can easily be done online and through internet communications. So you don't have to even have this person in your town. Money management. I recommend that you are not the money manager. I don't believe you should be picking the stocks and the bonds and building the portfolios. There are very professional and effective money managers with great track records out there. I believe you want to have them give you the advice about the asset allocation for your clients and let them manage the money. Insurance, there are many categories of insurance. So for annuities, life, DI, and long-term care, you have a great resource in financial brokerage. There are other types of insurance as well. What about property and casualty? What about liability? What about health insurance? So there are multiple categories. So for example, you may have multiple subject matter experts behind each of these ovals where the subject matter experts reside. So legal, you might have an estate planning attorney and a corporate attorney. So there are multiple subject matter experts in each of these categories. So I want you to imagine assembling a team of best-in-class subject matter experts and just how much value you can bring to the marketplace and how much easier it will be to get and keep clients in any economy. Bottom line is they're not going to let you go. You become such an integral person in making all this work for them, they are not going to ever let you go. Remember, you don't have to know what they know. It's your job to know them and have them help you serve your clients at the highest possible level. So Justin, in just a minute, I'll take a few questions here. Let me bring up a site that you might find helpful. the smartest financial advisor I know, virtually in the entire financial services industry. I believe that the guy who created this website is the smartest financial advisor, the best financial advisor in America. So I've been a successful financial advisor. I've been teaching and coaching financial advisors for 23 years, and what's on your screen right now, I'm telling you, I believe is not only the best financial advisor in America, probably in the world. I just got back from South Africa. I do business with advisors in the UK, South Africa, all the provinces of Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and there are a lot of advisors who are following this guy because he really is that smart. Now, more importantly than being smart, though, he's packaged what he does for his clients, and he makes it available to you. So he created a site called trustedadvisortoolkit.com, and I suggest you go to that site, and I suggest that you go through what's called the Kate Wilson case study. So this is several hours of video that walk you step by step through how you go from being a good financial advisor to being a great financial advisor who delivers on a very high value proposition through a delegated business model. And I'll go back to the screen. What you see on the screen right now, this is a delegated business model. Delegated where you have subject matter experts, where you're not trying to be the know-it-all expert in everything. You're relying on your experts. So I'll leave that up on the screen for just another moment. Trustedadvisortoolkit.com. Okay, I'm going to make a couple of more points about value proposition, and then I'm going to ask Justin what questions he has. So you text your questions in or type your questions in, and I'll take a few minutes to answer questions specifically about value proposition, and then we'll shift gears and talk about your trust-building communication skills. Because once you have a great value proposition, that's one thing, but you've got to be a really, really good communicator so that you can bring your value proposition to your prospects and your clients, so enough of your prospects become clients that you can create all the recurring revenue you need to make your business work and to make your life work. So these are 5 very powerful value proposition words that I'm bringing on the screen right now. Consolidate, coordinate, comprehensive, simplify, and accountability. And what I'm suggesting is that you should do all 5 of these things for your clients. First and foremost, you should consolidate your client's financial affairs. So what they have is they have things in too many different places. They have had the misfortune of meeting a bunch of different salespeople, and while they might have gotten a single product that meets a single need, or 2 or 3 products that meet 2 or 3 needs, what they end up with doing this for a few decades is they end up with a mess. They end up with a bunch of life insurance policies over here, maybe some annuities over there, their property and casualty over here, their investments over there, their financial plan, their legal, their accounting. It's basically all disconnected. And so my recommendation is that you propose to your prospective clients and your existing clients that you're going to get all this consolidated. And one of the big benefits of getting it consolidated is only after it's consolidated can it all be coordinated. And so what happens is the most successful people that I know, and I know people who are I don't have any, well, actually I do. I know one billionaire. But all the people I know, whether they have millions or tens of millions or even hundreds of millions, it's a mess. It's all over the place. And I think that financial advisors make an erroneous assumption that just because people have money and they have financial advisors, that their financial house is in order. That is an erroneous assumption. And it's good that it's erroneous. So when you start approaching people who have more money, you'll be impressed with how responsive they are to this idea of getting things consolidated and coordinated so they can be comprehensive. The wealthiest and most successful people I know have huge gaps in their financial house being in order. It is not comprehensive. Most financial advisors who say they're comprehensive are not telling the truth. There are very few truly comprehensive financial advisors out there. You want to be one of them. That 4th bullet point is huge. So when it's consolidated, coordinated, and comprehensive, what just happened to their life? Their life got simpler. And ultimately, that's why you get paid. You may think you get paid a commission on the product. You may think you get paid a fee to write the plan. You may think you get paid a fee for assets under management. You really get paid to simplify people's lives. That is a huge benefit of having a truly comprehensive, trusted advisor. So think about the people who have money. Think about those people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. That's where the money is. Right? What they want, what they value more than money is time. And when you simplify their life, you save them time. And they will pay you handsomely to simplify their life and save them time. And the fifth bullet point is accountability. So one of the things that we do for the advisors that are in our program is they send me audio and or video recordings of their client meetings. And they have these great client engagement meetings, and the client ultimately asks, so what does it cost and exactly what do I get? And this is beautifully articulated. Let me tell you all the features and benefits about the things that I do, and they listen to that. But what's most compelling is when a financial advisor says, and not only are we going to create a game plan for you, but we're going to tell you specifically what you need to do to get your entire financial house in order, and we're going to hold you accountable to actually implement our advice. And I can't tell you how many recordings I've listened to where we've taught financial advisors to make that statement, where the spouses look at each other and one or the other says first, boy, we really need that. See, the truth is, everybody knows what to do. Everybody knows they should save more, invest more, spend less, have a financial plan, have more insurance. But the reality is they've had a bunch of salespeople tell them what they ought to do. They haven't really had a trusted advisor hold them accountable to actually do it. That's another place where you really earn your money. Because if they don't implement your advice, they do not get the benefit of your advice. So accountability is huge. So imagine a value proposition with the things that we've been discussing previous to this slide, and then add these elements to your value proposition. We're going to get it consolidated, coordinated, it's going to be comprehensive, it's going to be simpler, and we're going to make sure that you actually implement everything so you truly get the benefit of the advice of our experts. That is a big value proposition. Not as hard to deliver on as you might think, but you asked me to show up today and talk to you about how to get clients and keep clients in any economy, and this is how you do it. First and foremost, you got to be really, really good, and this is how you do it. So Justin, I'll pause there. That's my content about value proposition. I'll pause there and open it up to questions. If you have a question, just type your question in, and Justin will share your question verbally. He'll essentially be your spokesperson.
Okay, Bill, this one I know you touched on a little bit, but it does seem to come up frequently. Do I have to be a security licensed advisor?
Well, the answer to that question is it depends. But before I get into the details of that, my main question is, what if it does? What if in order to be at the top of the financial services industry, you would need to have a securities license, maybe a Series 65 to be a registered investment advisor? So what I hope is that the question is more informational. So as you know, I do a lot of work across all distribution channels of the financial services industry, and I often get this question, and I can't tell from the tone of the question because it's coming in through being typed, but I often get this question with a level of resistance like, well, I don't have to be a securities license, do I? And I kind of chuckle and go, well, what if you do? What if in order to really get and keep clients in any environment and be in the top few percentage of financial advisors in the world, what if you did have to have a securities license? And these things are not hard to get. So I think what happens is you go to a compliance meeting or you hear a horror story from somebody who didn't make this work from a securities license standpoint. You think, boy, I don't want a securities license. I don't want to be regulated like that. Well, I'm going to go back to this value proposition on this. Let me go back a couple of slides. So I want you to imagine that you're a financial advisor who does the three things that are on the screen right now. You help your clients get their financial choices in alignment with their most deeply held values and their most important goals and their most deeply held values. You help them get their entire financial house in perfect financial order and keep it that way forever, and have a 10 level of confidence that no matter what happens in the market, the economy, or the world, that they're going to achieve their goals. And if you're delivering that level of value, you don't have anything to worry about from compliance and the regulators. We're teaching you to operate at a level that is much higher than what the regulators are looking for. In fact, what qualifies at a FINRA or SEC level is an embarrassment to really great financial advisors. So maybe you do have to get a securities license, maybe you don't. I'm going to bring up this other visual. And there's been some discussion about this among, we have a program called the Committed Advisor Program, and these are advisors that are going through a several-year journey to transition from being a good financial advisor to being a great financial advisor at this level of value proposition. So remember I mentioned earlier, there is no silver bullet. So you may get a couple of little scripting ideas that you can implement this afternoon, but I'm really here to help you with the long-term career success. I'm not a sales gimmick guy. I'm a high-level, long-term success guy. So there's been some conversation among financial advisors about looking at the illustration that's on your screen right now. What license do you really need for that? So, gee, I don't need to be an accountant and be a CPA and maintain continuing education to be a CPA to make sure that my clients follow their CPA's advice and get their taxes filed on time and have a good annual tax projection. I don't have to be a CFP to outsource the writing of a financial plan to a CFP and telling my clients they ought to follow the advice in the plan. I don't have to be a CFA, Chartered Financial Analyst, to be a money manager because I'm not managing any money. If I'm just making sure that my clients follow the advice of the money manager and the CFA, what license do I need for that? Well, what about insurance licenses? What insurance license do I need to make sure that the clients actually make the investment or purchase the particular kind of insurance in all these different areas? Do I need to have a property and casualty license to coordinate with an auto insurance expert and make sure that my clients adjust their insurance appropriately? Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, I need the license to get paid. Okay, well, if you choose to get paid that way, but I sort of want to open up your horizons. There's nothing wrong with being paid those commissions, but by the same token, and I'll kind of finish the example, you don't need to be a lawyer to make sure your clients get their estate plan done and that they execute on their living trust and get their wills completely documented or get their health care directives. You don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to be a doctor to have them get their health care directives done, for example. So the question really, the reason this discussion has come up is, what license do you need to be the trusted advisor? Well, and if you didn't have any licenses and you weren't being paid through the products, how would they pay you? Well, maybe they would just pay you directly to be their advisor. And that is the fastest growing segment of the financial services industry. And again, I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't care how you get paid. What I care about is that you do a comprehensive full-service job for your clients. My point is that there are already people out there who are being paid directly by their client to be their trusted advisor without having to get paid through any of the products or the services. So just something to consider. Again, I'm not saying you have to go that route. I'm saying it is part of the answer to the question, what licenses are really required. So if you choose to operate in a particular way where in order to be paid you need a particular license, then get the license. It's really not that complicated and not that cumbersome, particularly when you operate at a very high level. Okay, Justin, what's next?
It's a little bit of follow-up to what you were saying there. If you're outsourcing your value to teams, and how are you receiving residual pay? Are you going to unpack that probably a little deeper in the upcoming section?
I wasn't planning to go into that in too much detail because okay. I think the main thing is delivering the value proposition. So I'll answer the question directly. Okay. Your clients, I guess I should go back to that slide. All right, so you're the most important person in this particular slide. Well, let me go back even a couple more, back to the orchestra conductor image. So that's on your screen right now. So I think that and I find this interesting, and I understand the question. I've heard it a lot over the years of teaching what we teach, and that is, well, gee, if they're actually doing all the technical work, then why is the client going to keep me in this equation and continue to pay me an ongoing fee? And there are a couple of reasons for that, and the orchestra conductor is a good example for that. So once the orchestra conductor has assembled the musicians, why does the symphony continue to pay the conductor? Why don't they just say, we don't need you anymore? Or maybe an easier example, when think about a football team. When a football team hires a coach, why don't they just fire the coach after the coach gets all the players together? Because they're professionals, they get paid a lot of money. Don't they know what to do? And that is the answer why you continue to get paid. You're the glue that keeps everything together. If for some reason there needs to be a trade out, let's say using the orchestra conductor metaphor, that the first chair violin decides to get married to a wealthy man in Switzerland and move to Switzerland. Well, you need a new first chair violin. So it's a dynamic process. So when people get their entire financial house in order, when I say and keep it that way forever, it's a dynamic process. People change, their lives change, their circumstances change, external events change. So having you in their life to make sure all this happens and that the smartest people are on their team is very, very valuable, and they will pay you for that on an ongoing basis. I'm not making this up as some kind of hypothesis or theory of what might happen. What I'm telling you is that this is how the best financial advisors are operating right now. Now, again, some of them get paid a planning fee, they get paid a percentage of assets, they earn commissions on insurance products. Some of them get paid a percentage of net worth and do all these things. Some of them get paid no commissions, no asset fees, no planning fees, and get a flat fee. Some of them charge their flat fee up front. On January, they bill the clients, they directly deduct it from their money market account, and they're paid for the year. Some people get paid monthly. Some people get paid quarterly. So there are a variety of ways you can do this. How you choose to get paid is, I'll say, a secondary decision to the primary decision of deciding this is how I'm going to be in the business. You could be in the business like this right now. You could charge a fee for financial planning, get a percentage for assets under management, and earn commissions on your insurance and annuity products. That's a way that you can do this. What matters mostly about however you get paid is that it's completely transparent to the client. This is another reason why people are frustrated with their financial advisor, and why a lot of successful financial advisors financially are struggling to keep their clients during a difficult economic environment. It's because they haven't really been candid about how they're being paid or how much they're being paid. And when people find out that it's different than what they thought it was, even if they don't mind the amount, it breaks the trust bond when people feel like you haven't been completely forthright with them. And that's one of the challenges about a lot of financial products, is that the money that's being paid and where it's going is very either ambiguous or obscure. In some cases, it's deliberately ambiguous or obscure because the manufacturers of the products and some of the salespeople of the products don't really want the people to understand how it works economically. And that's pretty obvious when you try to figure it out. Most financial advisors, honestly, don't really understand where all the money goes and how it's distributed inside most products. So this breaks the trust bond. So however you choose to get paid, make sure it's very transparent and fully disclosed. What's next, Justin?
Okay, what is the best way to find a great team?
Well, let me put this other site back up here. So this is something that Mark Little, who created TrustedAdvisorToolkit.com, goes into in more detail. So I'll answer the question at a high level, and then if you want to use Mark as a resource, you can really get into the nitty-gritty and the detail of how he does that. Essentially, what it boils down to is think about what I called best-in-class subject matter experts. So Justin, do you know what city the question asker lives in? Does it show you that information?
California, I forget the city. Oh, Fresno.
Okay.
No, it's
Fresno. Okay. So in Fresno, California, there are, I'm going to go back to this other image, there are tax experts, there are financial planners. Money managers typically tend to be a national thing, so you may not need to find the money manager locally. Insurance experts, well, you guys obviously prove that you don't have to have all of your insurance expertise locally, and lawyers. Right, so I'm going to sort of leave financial brokerage aside for a second, but chances are, well, let me cover it for a moment. You found financial brokerage probably because somebody you know said, hey, when it comes to life, annuities, long-term care, and DI, these people are a great resource. They've done a lot of due diligence. They've got great support. They'll answer your questions. When you have a client or a case that you need some support with, they'll help you with that specifically. They have other resources like webinars with nationally known experts who can help you be more successful. Chances are you found financial brokerage by referral, by recommendation. And that's how you go about finding all your experts. So let's say that you're in Fresno, California, and you want to find the best-in-class subject matter expert in tax and accounting. What you do is you ask people who you think would have reason to know. You'd ask other financial advisors. You'd ask your clients, probably your more successful clients. You might ask if you have an estate planning attorney or other professionals. You just ask them simple question. So who do you think is the best tax expert in Fresno? And if you ask 20 or 25 people that question, the same 2 or 3 names will come up consistently. You might get 20 different names, but there'll be 2 or 3 names that come up consistently. And then you say, well, if these are the names that keep coming up from people who ought to know, then these are probably the best tax experts in town. Now, this is where I'm going to sort of not drill down into a tremendous amount of detail because there are a few next steps. You call the person up, one of the people up whose name came up, and you say, hey, Justin, it's Bill Bachrach calling. I've been asking around town about who the best accountants are in Fresno because I'm building a team of best-in-class subject matter experts to help me serve the clients of my financial services business. I'd like to set a phone appointment with you to talk about what you do, how you do it, and how much you charge so I can determine whether or not you would be the best-in-class subject matter expert who ought to be on my team. Now, what do you think they're going to say? Of course, they're going to say, well, be happy to talk to you. So you represent bringing lots of business to them. Now, your biggest challenge when you do this is the skepticism that you might meet because what are most accountants used to getting from financial advisors who call them up? Justin, what do you think? What do you think most accountants get from financial advisors calling them up?
Lunch, hey, we're going to buy you a sandwich, something along those lines possibly.
Yep, buy a sandwich. And what do financial advisors really want from accountants?
Yeah, they want leads. They want you to feed me people.
Exactly. So that is not what you're doing here. This is not a backdoor tactic to get leads and referrals from an accountant. What you're genuinely doing is building a team of subject matter experts. You do the same with a financial planner. So ask, who do you know? Who in this town do you think is the best financial plan writer? And what you're really looking for is a financial plan writer, and there are lots of them. There are lots of financial planners out there who are great at the technical part of planning, but terrible at acquiring clients. So you find somebody who's great at the technical part of financial planning, and you come to some arrangement to pay them to write the financial plans for your clients. Now, in some cases, the fee that you pay them is a part of what you collect from your clients. In other cases, the client may pay directly for those fees in addition to what they pay you. So I'm not suggesting that you've got to include legal fees in your fee. I'm not suggesting you have to include tax preparation fees in your fee. So we could go down this, and we could spend the rest of the day just talking about this specific thing, but that at least conceptually helps you understand the way you find the best people in your community is to ask people who know and then have a process for approaching those people so that you can vet them. All right, Justin, do we have anything else on the subject of value proposition?
Yep, and I guess this is me just to join in what you're saying. I'm guessing you're probably going to have a 1 or 2 or 3 in any given field that you probably have on your team, so to speak. Would that be a fair assessment?
typically you'll have your A team, but you might have, so let's say you go to do this and you meet with 3 accountants and you say, boy, 2 of these people are really good. But you have your primary person who you'd probably do all of your business with unless there was something that happens to your primary. It's unlikely, you're unlikely to spread the business around, because what happens is you get really good at interacting with this accountant, this lawyer, this financial planner, these insurance experts, and their team.
Yeah, I guess my only thought, Bill, is if you're bringing in a big-time client and they maybe say, well, this is non-negotiable. I've been doing tax with Joe for years. You know, you may, in order to give him every other opportunity, you might allow for that.
Well, you might, but here's how that typically works. So role plays with me, Justin. So let's say that your client who says, I've been working with my tax guy for 30 years, and by God, we're going to continue to work with them. Is it okay if we continue to work with them? So sort of say something like that to me.
Oh, you want me to answer, or you want me to throw that your way? Okay.
Throw
okay. I've been
way.
working with Joe in tax, and he's great, and I'd really like to keep that relationship going.
Well, Justin, if you really insist on that, I want you to know that I'll do my best to work with Joe. But let me ask you a question about Joe. How did you meet Joe?
We grew up together, actually.
Right. So you're lifelong friends. All right. So what was the process that you went through to vet Joe to determine if he's one of the best accountants or the best accountant in Fresno?
You know, I guess just we've known each other for so long, it just felt like a good fit.
Right. So I think that what I'm hearing, Justin, is the answer to your question is you didn't do anything to vet him. He's your lifelong friend, so you feel comfortable with him, so you do business with him.
Yep.
All right. So would you mind if I put Joe through my vetting process to really determine if Joe meets the standard to give you all the services and value that you need to achieve your goals and fulfill your values?
Okay, sure.
Okay? So that's one way that I could handle that. Now, if I want to be more direct than that, and I want you to really understand that everything that I'm teaching you, both the words and the way of being, successful people like being communicated this way. Unfortunately, since most financial advisors don't have much experience communicating with wealthy and successful people, they tend to be kind of wussy and wimpy and wishy-washy around successful people. So here's another bit more direct way to handle it. So, Justin, I really appreciate that you and Joe have a lifelong relationship, and I totally respect that. That's how most people find the people that they work with. Quite frankly, it's sort of by accident. We go to the same church, we play golf together, we grew up together, our spouses work together, and there's nothing wrong with that. What I do want to tell you, though, is something you really need to know. I went on a very extensive search for the best accountants in Fresno. The way that I did that is I asked the smartest people in Fresno who have the wealthiest people, the professionals, the other experts, who do they think are the best accountants in Fresno? When I did that, a few names consistently came up. Then I interviewed and took all those top 2 or 3 through a vetting process and came to the conclusion that the best accountant in Fresno is Fred Smith. And I'm sure Joe's a great guy, but I have to tell you the truth. When I did my research, his name never came up. So if you insist on working with him, you know, ultimately it's your money, it's your choice. But I think you're paying me to make sure that you truly get the best advice from the best experts. Is that the kind of relationship you want to have?
Yes, absolutely.
You know, so what successful people respond to is they respond to confidence. I'm not talking about condescending or being obnoxious or being rude. I'm talking about confidence. If you really did the work to put together a team of best-in-class subject matter experts, then you're going to be confident that this really is a team of best-in-class subject matter experts. And that value proposition is more compelling when you communicate that value proposition with a high degree of confidence. And if you're not that confident about your team, that's a problem. You should have that degree of confidence. So, Justin, are there any other questions, or can we move on to the trust and communication part?
I think we're ready to move on.
Okay. So we talked about the better value proposition. Now let's talk about what I call speaking the language of trust. And I call it that because I picked that up from a friend of mine who's one of the world's leading authorities on communication. So some of the world's corporate leaders and politicians are personal clients of Bert's. He is the personal communication consultant to the MDRT Executive Committee. So when the new group comes up through XCOM at MDRT, Bert is the person who helps them be more confident, giving their speeches from the main platform and helping them with their content. He is truly a leading authority on communication. And I love that quote. The most important language in effective communication is an almost unspoken language, the language of trust. So let me just kind of work you through a few thoughts about building high-trust client relationships. Fundamental to this is knowing the right questions to ask and when to ask them. So if you want to have get and keep clients in any economic environment, it's all about asking the right questions. And I've demonstrated some of that, like how do you strike up a conversation at a business function or at a charitable function or just with somebody sitting next to you on an airplane. So you can know the right questions to ask, and then can you listen with empathy and manage the conversation that comes up. And the reason I point out listen with empathy is most salespeople are taught to listen for hot buttons so they can sell their products. There's a big distinction between listening for hot buttons and listening with empathy. And then when it is your turn to talk, to be able to articulate your ideas and your advice with conviction so your clients and your prospective clients respond positively and implement. And the image that just came up on the screen now is a digital recorder. And this digital recorder is important because this is how you know how effectively you communicate. So, for example, last week I did a speaking engagement, and I record all my speaking engagements. I record all my webinars. I don't listen to every single one, but I do listen to many of them, and periodically I have them transcribed. So last week I did a particular speech in Boise, Idaho, and I'm having that speech transcribed because when I can read it, I can then manipulate how I ask certain questions, how I tell certain stories, how I respond to certain questions, because communication is both of our livelihoods. So it was the most important thing when I was a financial advisor. It's the most important thing today in my business, and it is the most important thing for you. So these three elements are crucial. And the only way you really know how good you are at doing these things is by recording your conversations. Clients, prospective clients, have no problem with recording. You simply tell them why you're recording and tell them how it's in their best interest, and they're happy to let you record. It could sound like this. Justin, are you married? I know Justin's probably using the mute feature.
I'm sorry, Bill. Go ahead.
It's no problem. I was asking if you're married.
Oh, yes, I am.
What's your wife's name?
Tracy.
Tracy. So let's imagine that Justin and Tracy are sitting with me for our initial client interview, and I say, you know, Justin and Tracy, I really appreciate the fact that you came in for this meeting today. I mean, the fact that you took time out of your busy schedule, that you gathered all your financial documents, and that you showed up here today tells me that you're serious about making smart choices about your money. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, that's correct.
So you're going to notice that we take it seriously as well. We're going to have some fun, but we're also going to ask you a lot of questions. We're going to put everything in perspective using this visual tool called the Financial Roadmap, and we're going to use our friend the digital recorder today. And the reason that we record is because we're really thorough. Do you know how you can watch a movie a second or third time and see things that you didn't see the first time?
Absolutely.
Well, this is a lot more important than watching a movie. So if we decide to do business together, our team and I will listen to this recording at least one more time so we can make sure that we get our advice just right for you.
Okay, great.
So I introduced the digital recorder. Justin and Tracy see, oh, he's recording because he's thorough. I also just distanced myself from all the other financial advisors that they've met with because nobody else is recording. And I'm recording for their benefit. So when I listen to the recording, I'm not only going to do a better job for Justin and Tracy, I'm going to get a chance to hear myself. Do I really ask good questions? Do I listen with empathy? When I do talk, do I communicate in a way that is succinct and direct and compelling and inspiring? Do I make the connections between my advice and their goals and values? How do I come across? If you're not listening to recordings of yourself, you don't really know. Your memory filter is not a very accurate way to know how effective you are at communicating. All professionals who operate at the top of their game use some form of recording and reviewing their performance. Athletes do it, actors do it, politicians do it, top corporate leaders do it, top financial advisors do it. It's a very, very powerful and a simple thing to do. You probably heard me say this before. If you've heard me before, you build trust by listening to their story, not by telling yours. It's a question-driven process. You build trust by listening to their story, not by telling yours. You build trust by inspiring people with positive emotions, not with fear or greed. So you want to help people create a compelling vision of their future as opposed to using scare tactics. Please stop using the old school sales scare tactics like people are 7 times more likely to become disabled than they are to die. You know, so who was it who was in that wheelchair, that quadriplegic famous actor, movie star? Oh, yeah, Christopher Reeve. Who did Christopher Reeve play on TV or in the movies? He played Superman. If it can happen to Superman, it can happen to you. You got to have disability insurance. That is a bad, old school sales tactic way to sell disability insurance. So we could do this with everything. With all the world turmoil, man, buy gold. Boy, the way we're printing money, inflation is going to come back. If you have inflation, you could lose your buying power. If you lose your buying power, you could outlive your money. You don't want to live too long. What a tragedy that would be. Insurance. Life insurance. What would happen if your family, what would happen to your family, rather, if you were to die prematurely? Boy, you wouldn't want to look down from heaven and see your wife turning tricks and your kids selling drugs, would you? You know, and so you may be kind of laughing at some of these things as I'm throwing them out there, but every single example that I just gave you, I heard at a breakout session, typically at some financial services conference, where there is still too much fear and greed tactics being used to get people to buy the products. Think in terms of building a relationship where they follow your advice. If they're following your advice to have disability insurance, based on their goals and their values, they'll be inspired to buy it. If they're following your advice about how much life insurance they need, how their assets should be allocated, why they need to do their estate planning, why they need to have their taxes prepared and filed and paid in full and on time, why they have to have the right asset allocation, all these things they can be inspired to do. So trusted advisors inspire people rather than scare people or make promises about the future. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. So making any promise of performance is an appeal to greed, and it's the bastion of the salesperson. We're recommending that you behave like a trusted advisor. So in the 8 or so minutes that we have left, let's talk a little bit about processes, or a little more about processes and scripts. So essentially what we've been talking about is we've been talking about having processes and scripts for your initial client interview, and also a method to fill your appointment calendar. So I'm going to dive a little bit more deeply into the detail of that by using a flow chart to illustrate this. So remember, this webinar is recorded. If I'm moving through these things faster than you can take notes, all of these slides and everything that I'm saying, this is all on the recording, and I'll bring up that site again at the end of our time so that you can have access to these tools. So I mentioned in my little introduction of the digital recorder with Justin and Tracy, the financial roadmap. I said we're going to put everything in visual perspective. So my recommendation is that you have a visual client engagement tool. And I'll talk a little bit more about the financial roadmap in a minute, but essentially it starts there. Some of the people who you have client interviews with hire you. When they do, you work with your team to create your advice. Then you have an implementation meeting. The implementation is the first meeting where they begin to implement your advice and that of your team to get their entire financial house in perfect order and keep it that way forever. You also ask for referrals. Then you cycle into what we call the 3-meeting process. Whatever you adopt, you can't help your clients get and keep their entire financial house in order by writing a plan, having a meeting, and talking to them on the phone once or twice a year. So if you're truly a top-level financial advisor, you're meeting with your clients 3 or 4 times a year. We call that a progress meeting. In every progress meeting, because they're so impressed with the work that you've done for them, they are more inclined to introduce you to their friends, family, and colleagues. The key to getting referrals is doing something that's beyond what they typically experience. Therefore, it makes sense for them to introduce you to their friends, family, and colleagues so they have the potential to have the same experience. Then your referral process is also scripted out and proceduralized. Your client should contact the referral and tell them why they're making this introduction. You should put something of value in their world that is valuable for them whether they do business with you or not. As I mentioned earlier, you're going to have to talk to them on the phone. This is a place where it's imperative that you ask good questions, listen, and are able to make a good offer. We recommend that your offer is something that is free, relevant, and easy. So we recommend a phone consultation. It doesn't cost anything to talk to you on the phone. It's easy to talk to you on the phone. And it's relevant because you're going to help them understand how some of the things that were in the gift that you gave. We recommend a book, something of value like a book, so you can help them understand how the concepts in that book will be effective for them. So this is, I'm using our flow chart of our business model to illustrate whether or not you would use the values-based financial planning business model or not. Your business model will have to have all of these elements. And then I demonstrated this a little bit, something called the self-referral. The self-referral is where you are comfortable and confident enough to ask questions and put your value proposition on the table so you can do that with anybody, anytime, anywhere. I'll go through a flow chart of how that works next. So you see on the screen right now, there are places where you can meet people. Dinner parties, cocktail parties, fundraisers, business networking, weddings, sporting events, arts and entertainment, church, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs. I mean, the list could go on. I just give you examples. There are lots of places where you can go where there are people that you can meet, many of whom would get benefit and value from knowing and working with you. In order to make that work, though, you have to have what I call an opening question. I demonstrated this earlier. Remember at the charitable event? So how come you're involved in this charity? What motivated you to be here tonight? You have an opening question. And sometimes you just have the conversation ends fairly quickly. Sometimes it moves into more of a back and forth conversation. You're asking them questions. They're asking you questions. It's the art of conversation. And you ask them questions about themselves and their background and their family. What do you do for fun? What brings you meaning in your life? Why did you get involved in this particular charity or program? And that creates a conversation that gives you a basis to make an offer or not. To make an offer or not. So what is the offer? The offer is basically the same thing that you do when somebody refers you. It's just a self-referral. So it either ends, they might decline the offer, or they accept the offer. If they accept the offer, you get their contact information and you schedule the phone consultation. If they decline the offer, then it ends. The reality is there's no silver bullet. There's nothing that you're going to do that causes everybody you meet with to want to proceed and talk to you more. But let's say that it continues. Some percentage will continue. Then you put the value in their world. You conduct the phone consultation. Some of those lead to nowhere. And some of those lead back into your initial client interview where you meet with them, and based on that experience, some people hire you and some people don't. So again, I use our process as a model. We have a turnkey process that already exists, but by the same token, if you're going to create your own, you'll need to have all these pieces involved. Now, as far as the referral process is concerned, as I mentioned earlier, we've done 2 previous webinars hosted by Financial Brokerage, one on time, priority, and calendar management, and the other on creating a referral process. So if you want to go deeper into the referral process, then I recommend that you go and watch that webinar again, and I'll give you the place where you can find that in just a moment. So let's talk a little bit about the engaging client interview. As I mentioned, we use a tool called the Financial Roadmap, but the point here is that it should be visually engaging. So there's an opening. I demonstrated the opening when I introduced a digital recorder with Justin and Tracy. Then there is a values conversation. You determine their goals. You benchmark their current financial reality. Those are the three elements on this visual tool: values, goals, and current financial reality. Then you make an offer to be hired, and they make a commitment to hire you. They're basically hiring you and your team to go to work and create a plan to give them advice on how they can actualize their financial roadmap. The fifth element of an engaging client interview is a discussion about their commitment to implement. And that's important because you can know in advance whether people are serious about implementing. Many financial advisors consume a huge amount of time creating plans and ideas and advice for people without being paid anything and without any commitment from the prospective client to actually implement your good recommendations. We recommend that you include in your client interview a discussion about their intention and their commitment to actually implement. That's for their benefit as well as for yours. So I promised that I put that web address up again. So there it is. And in the upper left-hand corner here, it's not posted yet, but today's webinar will also be posted. What's already posted here are the previous webinars on time, priority, and calendar management and our referral process. Justin, I know we're kind of coming right up to the top of our time. Do we have a few minutes for any questions, and are there any questions related to the communication skills side for getting clients and keeping clients in any economic environment?
I'm actually not showing any at the moment. We can pause briefly, but yeah, as you had mentioned, I know we are getting close to time as well.
So if a question pops up, that's fine. Otherwise, I'll make my sort of my final appeal to you from the webinar today. We started with a quote from Bruce Springsteen, and Bruce said, "More than rich, more than famous, more than even being happy, I wanted to be great." Being great at acquiring and serving clients means that you have no real competition, regardless of what's happening in the volatile financial markets, weak world economies, broken and corrupt governments, and other chaotic world events. So the bottom line is these things have been happening for thousands of years. They've happened during every lifetime, and they are not what determines your success or failure in business or in life. Your success is exactly where it has always been and always will be, and that's in your hands. So I look forward to meeting you in person at some time. Happy to answer any questions if there are any. Otherwise, Justin, those are my official comments for our webinar today.
All right, excellent presentation, excellent content. Thank you so much, Bill. As of now, I'm still not showing any, so I will go ahead and just do some closing comments on our end. On behalf of Financial Brokerage, I want to thank all the webinar participants today. If you do have any other questions concerning this or anything else we can help you with, give us a call at 1-800-397-9999. Our next scheduled webinar will be at 2:00 p.m. Central, Simplifying the DI Sale with Ken Smith, Assurity Life. If you have not registered, there's still time to do so. You can simply go to Financial Brokerage's website and use that carousel. Want to thank Bill Bachrach once again. Always appreciate having him. And everyone else out there, have a great and productive day.